This Earth Week, we continue to bring you stories about the power of water. The ABC News initiative to inform you about the shallow or sometimes non-existent supply of Earth and humanity's most precious resource. Tonight, we're taking a look at how America's aging infrastructure is putting water systems at risk, going to one town that's emblematic of how entire communities are treated in this country. In our Prime Focus, ABC's Steve Osunsami traveled to waterproof Louisiana, where the taps often run dry.
There are times when a name fits a little too well, and that's how it feels out in rural Louisiana, in this very real town called Waterproof, where most things here have seen better days.
It's becoming a norm for me to get up in the morning and twist the knob and no water.
The irony is they're surrounded by water. The mighty Mississippi runs right behind the levees that keep the town dry. But what happened here in 2018 now happens all the time.
You went to cut your water on, you didn't have water, and everybody that got a phone was calling all over town. Is your water off?
They had to go months without life's most basic necessity flowing into their homes after a water line broke down.
If it's broke anywhere, fix it.
We've been on doing this for 3 weeks, and we're going on to another month. If your family was in these types of positions and in these conditions, you would be down here.
5 years later, and there's still plenty of righteous anger in their voices, telling you plainly that this is America, so it's not too much to ask for clean running water. Even when it's working, sometimes this is what comes out of the tap.
So at that point, we get bottled water to warm in the microwave and put on a towel to take a bath.
Wow, that's how you take a bath.
Yes.
Warm it in the microwave, put it on a towel.
Yes.
See, I wouldn't be able to wash this so that I can, get somebody something to eat.
Yeah.
Marcella Rollins is trying to live the dream and make a living with a new food truck.
How do you explain it to someone who's not from here, who doesn't have to deal with this, how much of a pain this is?
It's more than just a pain. It's a lot of suffering because of the work that is being put into being able to get water in the home.
She says the water lines don't like it whenever it gets cold, like it did last Christmas.
When I did buy water, I went to buy the big gallons of water, and I had to go take those and refill them, wait in line to get them refilled. When it got snowy in March and we didn't have any water for 2 months, we had to go get a motel. I had some friends bring me 30-gallon trash cans full of water from Vidalia so that I can wash clothes.
She expects they'll lose water 3 or 4 more times this year.
And not for like an hour.
No, it's for days at a time.
It can be hard to get Americans to focus on what can sound like boring and academic concerns about crumbling infrastructure, but not here in Waterproof. Just a few days after we left, they lost water again. Their water lines are too old. The truth is that their troubles are America's troubles. Some of the oldest water lines today were laid down in the 1800s, before Henry Ford built his first car, and before women won the right to vote. And they should have been replaced 100 years ago. And to show how old these systems are, these are some of the retired wood water mains of yesteryear that they're still finding as they make repairs today in cities like Chicago and Philadelphia. Of the 2.2 million miles of water line that deliver safe drinking water to more than 257 million Americans, one study finds that more than half of them still need fixing. That the water systems in Louisiana and 9 other states are getting near failing grades, and that repairs to America's water system are so underfunded, there's a water main break every 2 minutes. Who can forget Flint, Michigan? Most of the dangerous lead in their water came from failing pipes. Nearly 100,000 people without safe water for years. Houston, Texas, last November, 2 million people in America's 4th largest city had to boil their water after a treatment plant lost power in perfectly good weather. And then Jackson, Mississippi, about 80 miles up the road from Waterproof, where the pumps that help keep the water clean have been failing that city for more than a decade.
Fix it, fix everything. There's water, fix the streets, everything.
Floodwaters overwhelmed a water plant last August, leaving 150,000 people dry. And they're now getting $800 million state and federal dollars that they need to try and fix this. The prayers came from across the country, along with trucks filled with free bottled water.
In Jackson, Mississippi, 160,000 people still without drinkable water.
Over in Waterproof, they were watching it all with hands over their faces, feeling forgotten and ignored.
My name is Gerard Botley, mayor here in the village of Waterproof.
It burned you a little bit.
It did. It did. Wow. Jackson was without water this one period. And I'm like, can y'all come to us? We go through this, what Jackson is going through. We go through this 5 to 7 times a year. I hated that happened for them. But guess what? Jackson, as soon as the water went out, Jackson had the news coverage. Jackson had the attention of their governor. Jackson had the attention of federal representatives in both the House and the Senate. We never got anything.
The struggle for rural communities like Waterproof is in poorly designed water systems, and it's way too expensive to start over now. For example, the water would be more reliable if the service were built more like this, a spoke and a wheel, where the water plant that feeds from Lake Bruin sends over separate lines of water to the different cities. Instead, the parish has 2 main pipes, one that runs north and another south, that weaves its way through the communities, and the people of Waterproof are at the very end. So if the pipe breaks anywhere up the line, the faucets stop working there and in Waterproof too.
How far back do the water mains go?
Oh gosh, they were put down a year before my mom was born, 1964. We should have changed meters and updated lines 6 times by now, and we haven't once. So I'm now in the hot seat.
One look downtown shows why that seat is so warm.
This is Main Street.
Okay.
The humor in that, huh?
This might be one of the quietest main streets in America.
So, as the population declines, I'm covering the same geographical area, but with less revenue.
We traveled across the state to see if it was any different in Louisiana's wealthiest communities. And it turns out that their running water isn't much fancier.
That's when we found out that there is a problem with the water coming into the homes. It's dirty coming in.
Tim Burke bought a brand new home in St. Tammany Parish, north of New Orleans, and he's spending a fortune fighting brown water.
And so we erected this filter system here. And since then, we have had clean water in the house, and not everyone can say that. It was, I think, half tongue-in-cheek, but people are talking about calling the United Nations to come in and give us the same clean water that they're doing for third world countries. But we had to do what we had to do to get the clean water. And if you look on the Facebook page, there's a dirty water Facebook page that covers this. You'll see the horrors of what it looked like before we did what we had to do.
This is the new shower head on the left. This is my old one after a year. Check this out. This is the old filter, obviously. Look at that. That's so gross.
Over here, the water warnings are daily news.
Homeowners in West St. Tammany Parish who use the Briarwood water system are still under a boil water advisory.
Since the beginning of this year alone, they've been told more than a dozen times to boil their water so it's safe to drink. The problem here isn't that they're too small, it's that they're growing too big. They're now getting $20 million from both the federal and state government to help pay for system upgrades, and that won't fix it all.
It may be a few years, but our citizens are going to realize improved water pressure and improved water quality.
Where Waterproof gets its water, they showed us their needs.
It's transferring the water to that tank outside.
They could use bigger and newer everything, but most importantly, a new reservoir that would allow them to keep shooting water down the line if the mechanics fail. They've asked for $10 million from both Louisiana and Washington and start building next year. But it won't be enough to fix this leaking water tower or replace any of the underground water mains that parallel the decline of the town. They worry that without more help, these rural communities will die of thirst.
As soon as children graduate at 18, they're moving to metropolitan areas, looking to get good jobs. Our elderly, they're dying out. My class graduated with 19 people. We're going down, and we're not being hurt. We're falling off of a cliff. with nothing to hold us up.
One of the smartest people in the world on the issue of water infrastructure is Greg DiLoretto, who's speaking truth to power in Congress.
It's going to fall apart, and that's what it's doing right now.
And he has a solution that many people don't want to hear, raising the cost of water.
And I know where I live, the cost of that is about ½ penny a gallon. Now, if you were to go buy a case of drinking water at one of the warehouse stores, that works out to about $1.75 a gallon. And what if we paid a penny a gallon for it instead of ½ penny? Could we solve our problem? Could we avoid Flint, Michigan's? Could we avoid Jackson, Mississippi?
We can't survive without it, and he says that 88% of Americans pay less for water than what it really costs, about $1.1 trillion a year. He says Americans especially need to think about it for a second. People will gladly pay $1 for a bottle of water from a grocery store, or up to $10 a bottle in a hotel, but then get mad at water bills higher than $50 a month. He believes the next city with water troubles will be a city with low water bills.
If you want to look for the next problem, just look at the places that aren't investing. Look at the places maybe that brag. You know what? We haven't raised our water rates in 15 years. Boy, we're doing a great job. I mean, these are pipes. They're like your home, right? I mean, for a long time, you can patch the roof, and that's what you do. But eventually, the roofer says, guess what? This roof's got to be replaced, and you have to do that. Well, this is just like that.
This is what it looks like when you don't fix it now. Long, desperate lines for clean water that are shocking to see in a prosperous country like ours. Marcella Rollins says she would gladly pay a little more for her water if it would mean a little less suffering.
I love to feed people.
Good.
They remind us here that clean running water means life and health and should never stop flowing.
We are a safe community. And when people from the metropolitan area contact me and say, Mayor, I want to come home, and their number one concern is, am I going to have running water every day? If Waterproof has been going through this same issue for 20 years, how are you going to change it? My only response then is, just wait and see. That's all I can give them.
Many communities like Waterproof in desperate need of solutions. Our thanks to Steve Osunsami for that. And you can scan the QR code for more on our Power of Water project as we celebrate Earth Month. ABC News is exploring our biggest threats to our water system right now, including lead in our drinking water, drought, and sea levels rising. We hope you'll check it out.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.